was a moment when I was about 9 years old. And I was at the Resurrection Baptist Church, where that was the church I went to growing up. And my grandmother was always in charge of all of the recitals and Easter recitations and all of that stuff. So I was playing the piano, and I remember my grandmother was standing back off stage, and she put me last in the show and everything, and I had learned Farrellese. And I was playing Farrellese, and I'm going and going and going, and I never learned how to end it, right? So I was just playing. My grandmother was standing backstage, and I was looking and playing, and that look of pride and happiness on my grandmother's face that's my life force. Everything I do, I just need that look, in my wife's eyes, in my daughter's eyes. And it's just, I realized very, very young that there's no easy way around it. No matter how talented you are, your talent is going to fail you if you're not skilled. If you don't study, if you don't work really hard and dedicate yourself to being better every single day, you'll never be able to communicate with people with your artistry the way that you want. So it's that moment. I just remember it so distinctly and how good it felt, and I needed it.
How did you go through making the decision to drop what was a very good job and take this chance? It all seems very obvious now, right? This many years later that it paid off, but at the time it was not obvious.
No, it wasn't. And I did do a lot of soul searching. I went to my boss at the time, and I really liked my job. And I told my boss I was going to go do this thing, start an internet bookstore. And I'd already told my wife, and she's like, "Great, let's go." And I said to my boss, I was going to do this. He's like, "This is a good idea." He said, "I think this is a good idea, but it would be an even better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job." And that sort of made some logical sense to me, and he convinced me to think about it for a couple of days. So I went away. I was really trying to get my head around how to think about this. And I think for me, the right way to make that kind of very personal decision, because those decisions are personal. They're not like data-driven business decisions. They are, what does your heart say? And for me, the best way to think about it was to project myself forward to age 80 and say, look, when I'm 80 years old, I want to have minimized the number of regrets that I have. I don't want to be 80 years old in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking back over my life and cataloging a bunch of major regrets. And I think that regrets, our biggest regrets, in most cases, you can murder somebody, okay, you'd regret that. But in most cases, our biggest regrets turn out to be acts of omission. It's paths not taken, and they haunt us. We wonder, what would have happened? I loved that person, and I never told them. And then they married somebody else. I didn't do this. And so that's the frame of mind that I put myself in. And once I did that, once I thought about it that way, it was immediately obvious to me. I knew that when I'm 80, I would never regret trying this thing that I was super excited about and it failing. If it failed, fine. I would be very proud of the fact when I'm 80 that I tried. And I also knew that it would always haunt me if I didn't try. And so that would be a regret. It would be a 100% chance of a regret if I didn't try, and basically a 0% chance of regret if I tried and failed. So I think that's a useful metric for any important life decision.
But Vayner Sports, Vayner Media, the book,
Yes.
Shoes, podcasts.
Yes.
You do a lot.
Yeah, man. Look, here's what I think. I think we get one at bat. The number one thing that scares me in life is regret. I really, really, really don't want to be on my deathbed, whether that's tomorrow or when I'm 97, and think, I should have done that. That spooks me, right? Like hard work, people judging me, trolling me on social media, like all the stuff that normal people worry about, I don't worry about. I worry about regret. And so I'm trying to squeeze everything out of my life. And so, yeah, I do a lot.
When I started studying, everyone says, oh, you're going to be a gym teacher. I said, no. I said, I'm going to work with professional athletes. I knew what I wanted to do. I said, I'm going to work with professional athletes. So that was the goal I set in my mind. And I just said, hey, that's going to take a place in my head. That's the only thing that I want to do. And I got to figure out a way to get there. So I studied and learned my craft better than anybody else. Did I start with the professional athletes? No. After I graduated, I went to work in a local health club. Really, I knew everything from a book standpoint, but still, you got to know how to apply it. Okay? So I, worked with anybody I could.
These are not pros.
These aren't pros. I'm talking about housewives. I'm talking about individuals that just want to get in shape. People that have had injuries from different sports, kids, anybody. Just kind of developing programs, implementing what I've learned, and actually being able to apply it. Mm-hmm. And once I started to look at that craft, I said, okay, now I'm starting to figure out how to actually apply this stuff and how to use it and put the formulas together and put the workouts together and do all these different things. I mean, stuff that they're doing now from a workout standpoint, I was doing 30 years ago.
Wow. So none of the stuff is new to you.
Some of the stuff is different. I stay on top of it.
Right.
All right, I got to continue to learn, continue to be better myself so I can better my athletes, better my craft. Mm-hmm. But it's just a different way of doing the same thing. Right now, there's a lot more resources, a lot more education, a lot more testing available. Back then, you kind of had to just figure it out. A lot of individuals now, okay, especially in this generation, not only from a training standpoint, but from a knowledge standpoint, they're jumping from one thing to another. Yeah. They're using this trainer this week, they're using another trainer next week. They're using this person as a mentor on YouTube, then they're using this person over here, okay, and they're getting all this conflicting information, okay? You gotta master what you're going to master, okay? You have to figure it out. Too many people are jumping from place to place to place. Michael, Covey, all these individuals, they mastered one aspect of the game. When they mastered that aspect of the game, then they moved to another aspect of the game.
What I had to understand was that you're not in competition with anybody but yourself. So those grudges, those reasons that you may give yourself for motivation, ultimately are they're pointless.
Right, okay, I got you. Yeah.
I'm mad at you. I'm going to prove you wrong. All right, well, when I prove you wrong, then what happens?
Yeah.
What happens?
Now prove me right.
Yeah, it's like there is no win in that. So I had to understand that if I'm going to stay true to what I feel that I can do, then I need to be the one to convince myself that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
But a lot of people, Kev, don't have that bounce back.
That's why you don't have a lot of people that make it to a certain successful point in life. Because a lot of people can give up. It's easy to give up.
Hell yeah!
It's the easiest thing in the world to do. I'm done. I ain't going. I ain't gonna keep going.
Yeah,
I don't feel like going to work. I'm done.
Yeah, man.
It's easy. It's very easy. But what's hard is going, yesterday I got nothing from working as hard as I could. Nothing happened from that. I'm going to do the same thing again today, but I'm going to try to go harder. That's the hardest thing in the world. To get up every day and give 100% and be in the same position that you were each day, but mentally know that you're trying and trying and trying. That's a real grind.
One of the things that, when things don't work out, one of the things I've been telling myself and also thinking about a lot is, apart from the fact of learning, which we'll go into, is just that space of actually understanding that there may be a different route. See, we get so attached to having one route, one method, one way of working. We believe that there's only one pathway to where we want to be. There's this conveyor belt of things we have to do, whether it's, get a degree, find a partner, buy a house, play golf, whatever it is, like this conveyor belt of efficiency and productivity that we hear, that becomes a part of our natural progression. And when that breaks apart, that's when we start to worry. That's when we start to think. But notice that actually it's a lot better when that happens earlier in life. See, regret has some really important roles. The first one is that it helps us make sense of the world from our perspective for one of the first times. See, most of us have spent our lives learning what's important to us based on maybe what families thought, what communities thought, what parents thought, what education taught, whatever it is. When you start regretting something, when you think you did something wrong, when you start thinking that I could have done something differently, you're making sense of the world from your perspective. It's crazy how powerful this is, right? You're starting to make sense of the world from your perspective. The second thing is, it allows you to avoid future negative behavior. If you knew you regretted something, I guarantee you, write it down right now, right? If you regret something, write it down right now, because it will teach you so much in the future. And you've got to write down the lesson you learned now. Otherwise, next time when you think you're making another tough decision, you're going to say to yourself, oh, what did I do last time? How did I not make myself regret that? And then you're going to be upset. You're going to regret that you didn't write it down. So write it down right now.